I'm Rachel, and welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. Today is our early September garden tour. This is probably the last garden tour that we'll have with the tomatoes. So last time seeing the tomatoes before I take them out, I think the last time you saw the garden, I was actually putting in a lot of fall seedlings. So we're going to take a look at how the tomatoes are doing, how the seedlings are doing, and kind of the garden in this whole transition period from summer into fall. So we're starting down at the end like we always do. This is where I planted my second summer beans. You can see I've got quite a few little baby beans. I've been harvesting every 3 or 4 days now, about 1 to 2 servings of green beans out of this area. Something has obviously been chewing on the leaves. I haven't seen it, but honestly at this point I don't really care. I think I'll get some good production from these plants anyway. And if you can't plant enough to share, then it's really hard to have an organic garden. So we'll share just a little bit. You can see still the ones in the back are not as far along as the ones in the front. It's the same problem I've been having, but nevertheless it looks like I will start harvesting from those ones in the back very soon. Now if we take a look at the rest of the bed, it is quite a tomato jungle still. You can see how much I've given up on pruning as it becomes more jungly near the top and then proceeds to flop over and grow back downwards. I've got a lot of green tomatoes on these plants, and as I was saying, they don't have that much longer for this world. You saw me trimming them at the beginning of this video, and despite the trimming, I really am only barely delaying the inevitable. You can see just the level of disease I'm starting to get. But despite the tomatoes being at the end of their season, despite all these green tomatoes, they will not go to waste. I found a really great recipe for a salsa verde using green tomatoes, so that is what I'll be doing with those. And you can see just the new hope coming up here. These are some turnip seedlings growing in between my still massive basils. The peppers are still in full swing and actually coming into their prime. I've been harvesting off of these. The other day I got my very first Lesa pepper. You can see that on my Instagram if you go to at Auxhart Gardening. These beautiful red sweet peppers kind of in the shape of a heart. My Buena Mulatas have been doing great in this bed. Next to them I have some radish seedlings, and you can see still some of these Zulu peppers. Baby purple bell peppers, I guess, is really all they are. These have been producing like crazy for me, and although they're small, at this point I've gotten maybe 15 peppers off of each plant, which I think is pretty good. And you can see it's coming into another flush here, so it is producing like crazy. And pretty soon when the tomatoes are pulled out, you'll see that the peppers will actually have a lot more room, as well as some of the fall stuff will have a lot more room to breathe. So pulling out the tomatoes, while sad, will be good overall. You can see some of them are still trying to make baby tomatoes, but for the most part the tomatoes I am getting are looking really lumpy like this, and they're ripening unevenly. So even though it looks like I'm still getting tomatoes, the actual quality of the tomatoes is going downhill too. Something really cool you can see is one of my Edvarsky peppers. It should start turning any day now, but this is kind of a massive pointy sweet pepper. And I've got my Du d'Espagne peppers. Finally, this is going to be the first one I get probably off of this plant. It's supposed to be just a large sweet pepper as well. Let's walk around slowly to the back so y'all can see. everything from kind of a higher vantage point. There's so much tomato vines in here. If I take you over here, you can see this one at the end that has just completely fallen over. It had a shorter support to begin with, and then it's just kind of gone wild. If you didn't know, tomatoes are naturally vining, right? So they're just sprawled out on the ground anyway. And the reason we trellis them up is because if we didn't, the fruits would lay on the ground, and then they wouldn't be very good for us to eat. Here's one of the lace-up peppers that it hasn't quite ripened yet. You see it right there, it's starting to turn red. It's got that beautiful point at the bottom. I can't wait for those. There's some more buena mulatas back here, and you can see some more sprouts coming up. If you didn't catch my fall planting video, you should definitely go back and watch that. And that explains why I've got like little clusters instead of kind of a more spread out planting going on back here. My volunteer mint plant behind the garden is just exploding, still smelling as sweet and fragrant as ever. And if we look up onto the hill of random things, the marigolds are just going crazy. And also the weeds. Whatever these are, as long as it's not kudzu, I'm pretty much okay with anything. But if I can get more flowering plants back here, especially for next year, I think that'll be really, really great to support the pollinators and bring them to my garden. I've still got some little basils back here as well. And the nasturtium, bless its heart, it has really tried not to die all summer. Something else cool I wanted to show you in this corner of the bed. You see this back here? That is a kale that I cut off at the stump because I wanted to plant some fresh plants, and it is trying its best to grow back. Since I'm trying my best to practice no-dig gardening, as well as not bothering the roots of anything else that I'm not pulling out yet, I mostly just clip plants off at dirt level and then leave the roots in place. And so the kales, even this one right down here, it's got its little leaf, trying to come back. Oh, that's a Draco. Hello, baby. What can I do for you, hun? You want some pets? Yeah. Draco the garden cat, if you've never met him before, he is 7 years old and an absolute sweetheart. He's my baby, and he loves to hang out in the garden with me. So here we go towards the other side of the garden. This is where my trellis is, and you can see I'm finally getting what I wanted earlier in the summer, an actually full trellis of beans. On the left side I have purple potted beans, and on the right side I have red noodle beans. And one of these looks much more lush than the other, and I think that that is because whatever's eating my beans on the other side of the bed is also chewing on these. Probably ants or a caterpillar of sorts. Oh, what are you? I don't know if you're what's been chewing on me. But despite that, if you look over here, you can see hanging underneath the trellis all those beautiful purple flowers, just ready to become pole beans for me. And same on the noodle bean side. There's actually a few beans already forming. And the noodle bean flowers are really interesting. They don't quite look like regular bean flowers. If they were open, I'd be able to show you better. But they're very cool. In my smaller raised bed over here, I have my spaghetti squash, which I've been fighting off the squash bugs every chance I get. And it's finally to the point where I don't even see one every day, and I check pretty much every leaf. And since then, it has started flowering again. Most squash plants, if you don't get flowers, that just means that they're under a bit of stress. And I actually only see male flowers currently. If you didn't know, squash plants form male and female flowers. The male flowers have this long, skinny stem, and a female flower, if you were to see it, I don't have any to show you, but it would have like the little baby fruit at its base instead of a long stem. And so that's how you would know. The male flowers and the female flowers have to cross-pollinate to make the fruit. And I'm not super hopeful that I'll get any spaghetti squash from this, but I'm gonna leave it because there's no harm in seeing what happens. In the rest of this bed, I have planted carrots. You can kind of see some little baby sprouts coming up. And then these things over here that look kind of like onions, they are actually garlic, I think, that I just didn't get out of the ground when I harvested in May, that are now sprouting. So that's interesting. You can see how much is going on in here. Garlic, like any other bulb, splits. And so I think that this entire head is just sprouting now. And I'm gonna let it grow because I think it's cool to see what happens when you just let things go wild. There's a few more carrot seedlings in here. These I've done a little more traditionally in little rows. And when those come out, this bed will be devoted again to garlic and onions. Look at the baby. He knows that he is so cute. Hi. Alright, so into the yard. It is even more overgrown, if that's possible. So we'll start with the herbs at the front. I've got some baby dill, spearmint, oregano, thyme, and parsley. I've got a few basils hidden back here, my massive tomato mess. There's still some tomatoes coming off of these potted plants, but I'm figuring that indeterminate tomatoes in containers is just not a good idea. I mean, it'll work in a pinch, obviously, but I'm not getting nearly the production out of these plants in containers as I did from the ones in the back. I think this cluster down here is the most tomatoes I've seen on this plant all season, and it's right before these plants are going to start dying back. You can see I haven't really clipped this one, and it's got that massive deadness in the middle that will start spreading pretty quickly. Right in front of me is my stevia. It's starting to look like it's going to flower. I think I'm going to cut it back some and then let it flower. I've been doing some stevia extracts, and that actually works pretty well. It's a lot easier than you think to make your own liquid stevia extract. Now the tomatillos, looking about the same. I cut them back some because, as you can see, they kind of just go everywhere. But like I've said in the past, tomatillos probably not a thing I'm going to do again. Now everything's looking a little wilty because it's the middle of the day, but check out how loaded this pepper plant is. I tried one today, and they are spicy, whatever they are. So I'll probably just use them in salsas as they come ripe. So like the peppers in the back, these peppers here in the front are just now starting to come into their prime. My Tabasco plant finally making peppers and looking real cute. I've got a second flush of serranos coming in here. You can see how dense the plant looks now as opposed to how it looked in the past. And all the peppers are like pretty small, but look at that. That is loaded. I've got Sugar Rush Peach hanging off of that plant down there in the back. And if you remember, some tomato hornworms actually got in my garden and destroyed completely a couple of my plants. This is one of them. It had no leaves 3 weeks ago, and look at it coming back spectacularly. I've also got some cayennes, turning beautiful colors. I've been collecting these in a freezer bag, and then these are going to get dried and crushed down into cayenne powder. This is another section of plant right here that had no leaves on it, and now even is starting to put on its own little flower, which is amazing. You can see my jigsaw pepper, both of those were eaten down almost all the way, and you can see it's fluffing back up at the top with some gorgeous white leaves. I would take you back closer, but there's a spider web in the way. And spiders are friends. We don't bother our friends if we can help it. I think next year I'm going to put the peppers up on a table or something. I'd really, really like to see all of these things at eye level instead of having to look down on them from the top. This is the other jigsaw. He's not bouncing back quite as fast, but literally all of his leaves were gone. So we'll give him a break. Maybe he'll come back. But yeah, that's what happens when you get tomato hornworms. I only had 6 of them in my whole garden, and over the course of 3 days, they took out so many of my plants. So I just wanted to take a moment to show you this weed here in the back. I asked a few of you what it was like a few months ago, and I think I was told it's pokeweed. And first of all, I just wanted to confirm if y'all still thought that was right, now that you can kind of see the berries on it. But the other thing I want to mention is look at how eaten down it is. Alright, something's chewing on this. And I think because something is chewing on this, it hasn't chewed on something else in my garden, right? And so by having this weed here, I have saved some of my plants that I actually want to eat from the bugs. And that's a good reason to just kind of let things grow and have a more cohesive ecosystem if you can. This is looking like about the color that you would want your sugar rush peaches when you harvest them. No, maybe not. Often you can tell if a pepper is about ripe if it kind of just pulls off the vine without too much force. That one I was feeling like I was about to tear it. So we'll just let it be. It honestly can't hurt it to live on the vine a few more days. Yeah, that one's pretty stuck too. Oh, no, wait. It's half broken. There we go. These have been really great. These Sugar Rush peach peppers. They're spicy, but not too spicy, and they've got a little bit of that like sweet tropical flavor to them. So it really makes for like a different type of salsa, if you know what I mean, other than like putting just jalapenos or something in your salsa. Here's another lovely spider friend. Some people call this an Orbweaver or writing spider. It's like pretty chunky boy now. I think he or she, probably she, has been living in my garden all summer, and she moved back here. I didn't see her for a while until she built her web. But as scary as she looks, I am glad to have her because she traps all manner of other bugs that I don't want around. So I trust her to stay put. She trusts me not to bother her. And it's kind of just a wonderful symbiotic relationship. So if you can get by not killing the spiders in your garden, I highly recommend learning to live with them. Alrighty guys, well that is the garden in early September. It is definitely still looking like a summer garden, but it's in this transition period. And I'm hoping to have more of a continuous gardening experience than I have in the past, because in the past I've kind of just torn out all of the summer stuff and then planted fall stuff, and I'm hoping that by kind of transitioning over time I'll have a little bit more of a cohesive garden and a bigger harvest in the fall, but we'll see. This is my first time trying all of this, and you guys get to watch. So that being said, if you do want to keep track of the garden and how all of the weird things I'm trying go, please do subscribe and like this video so that YouTube knows to show it to other people. Again, if you find anything I do helpful, liking and especially subscribing really helps the content reach other people and I really want to be able to help as many people as possible. So if you can help me do that, I would be ever so grateful. And this is where I leave you until the next garden tour or the next experiment that I end up doing and showing you guys. So until next time, I wish you all happy gardening.